Good afternoon, everybody. This is Johanna from the Sun Movement. We'll get started with the webinar shortly. We're just waiting for a few people to join. So thank you very much.
Message you in a private message. Read it and respond. Thank you, Mike.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Johanna from the Sun Movement. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to get started shortly. We're just waiting for a few more people to connect. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Johannan from the Sun Movement. Welcome to the call. Let's start it shortly. We're just connecting a few more people. Thank you for your patience. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a note. If you're not going to be speaking, please make sure you keep yourself on mute. Otherwise, you will be muted. We'll start the call shortly. We're just helping one or two people with a few technical issues. Thank you very much. active, or you guys can get started when you'd like. I will try to get in touch with Weird and see what we can do to get them connected. Cheers.
Sounds good.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me. We are from the SAM Secretariat. A warm welcome from Geneva. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus situation and these unprecedented times, we are doing this webinar while we're all working from home. So if you will be a little bit with all we're all facing technical difficulties. Nevertheless, we have Johanna on the line who can help with audio and video issues. And you also have the chat box, and my colleague Freddie is collecting questions. We'll be collecting questions throughout the webinar. So please do not hesitate to put your question in the chat box. Before I introduce you to our SAM movement coordinator, Gerda Werberg, for a short welcome, I just would like to make sure that everyone can hear me. If you have issues, please again, do not hesitate to connect in the chat box. You have a presentation. Johan, do you mind to connect? Thank you.
You can now share your screen and slide presentations.
Good morning. Before going to the presentation, we would end this session with remarks by Gerda.
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar on financial knowledge, because financial knowledge is power. If you can read and analyze how much finance is invested in nutrition, you might be able to find the best nutrition for the money and good nutrition that lifts up people from their malnutrition, but also maybe from poverty. So financial knowledge is power. So please ask all the questions that you may have. Share your own perspectives with other countries. That is what this movement is all about. Sharing, learning, asking questions, and inspiring each other. Before the official webinar starts, let me also say a few words about the COVID virus or the coronavirus. I hope you and your loved ones are still healthy and keeping up the good spirits. Because this pandemic has the potential of impacting people's health, people's family, but also reversing some major nutrition gains made over the past years. And we are trying our best to cope. And so we hope you are. And I hope even in the face of this, we do not drop the ball of nutrition. At the contrary, let us focus on nutrition as the best building block to create and maintain people's resilience, always with the first focus on the first 1,000 days of a child. So our team at the SAM Movement Secretariat is now working from home. As Deborah already said, they are on hand and they are connected to this webinar to provide you with the support you may need these days. So don't hesitate to reach out, even for a chat. We are in this together. So we will be counting on you at country level, focal points, network, multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder partners, our SAM Movement network. It has to happen and it has to continue at country level. So we count on you, you can count on us. That is movement power. It's the power of we. I wish you a very good webinar, and I hope you will be able to use the tools and the knowledge very soon in your country to support the people who are suffering from malnutrition and who are maybe most vulnerable also for the COVID. Let's fight and master the COVID. Let's do the same with nutrition. Malnutrition.
Thank you for your warm welcome. And Zach, if you could please load the presentation so we can start. Thank you. If anyone can, I hope everyone can see the screen.
Hello, and I apologize for the slight here. Thank you all so much for your time today. Please. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to briefly present to you the first ever comparative in the database on nutrition. This introduction is going to provide a very brief background of where this information comes from and how we gathered it. I'll give you a very brief explanation of what this tool can and cannot show you. And I'll conclude by explaining that will be shared with you after this webinar. The office is a product of some country efforts, holders together, and track their public finances for nutrition. You have before you, this is the final clip of a process that is very difficult for countries to pull everyone together and track their finances. The result is this data tool. This tool, you are able to check which countries you may be of interest. Use country filter from your screen and look at the types of information you want. The data is presented to you to show nutrition-related financing across sectors: agriculture, education, health. And within those sectors, you are able to screen whether you want to focus on nutrition-specific or sensitive interventions, and that would type of the information so you can look at specific types of nutrition-specific or sensitive programs across sectors. The output, which you will see at the bottom of this screen, will show you the countries that you have selected, the years of information they have, and you can find all relevant information of the budget line items once you screen with your category filters. And does this not show? The brief approach or Sun budget analysis exercise is to help a country bring its stakeholders together, decide what they believe is sensitive and specific to nutrition, and allow them to track those nutrition investments across time. The method is specifically designed to allow for comparison. It is not allowed exactly for comparisons because there is no consensus on nutrition sensitive. But the method sidesteps that ambiguity on nutrition sensitive interventions by allowing the result of being, if a country called its stakeholders together and tracked those finances across time, what it concludes together is sensitive to nutrition allows the method to have a consistency. Are as follows. In this data tool, if you click several countries and you would be interested to identify how 6 or 7 countries invest in school feeding or food security programs, or perhaps you are interested in knowing how 3 countries in your region are investing in cash transfers with nutrition components. You are to identify that information, how it will be presented to you in chart format will itself as percentages. This use percentages with the tool allows you to say it is not strictly a comparison across countries, but tell you how countries have defined those interventions, how much money is being spent on those interventions relative to others. Briefly now, and again that at the end of this presentation, with the follow-up that you will receive, you will see several places where you can find more information. On the Sun countries' experiences with nutrition tracking, you will have the first link, Sun Analysis Resource page. The Compared Nutrition Investment Database that I have described to you now will be the second link that you can see clearly here. And we also have links if you're interested in innovative forms of finance, such as GFF or Powered for Nutrition. Thank you for your time, and now I would like to move and give the floor to Deborah.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Johannan, for your help. If you could please help uploading the presentation with the objectives of the webinar so that we can introduce. At the moment, we have Richard Watts online. I hope you can hear us, Richard. I know you had quite some technical difficulties.
Yes, I'm here now. Hi, everyone.
Perfect. Fantastic. So, Johannan, if I can please ask your help to share screen. Thank you.
I'm going to need you to share your screen, please, with the objective slide. Thank you, because you have the presenter rights.
Clarification. One moment. When you present, please explain next slide. I will be changing the slides for everyone.
Absolutely. And I thank all of the participants on the webinar for your patience on this, where, as you can imagine, we're in the same room, in the same office is challenging. So thank you again for participating in this webinar. We heard the importance from the message of Gerda, our SAM movement coordinator, about tracking financial resources for nutrition. Zach has briefly presented, our colleague Zach has briefly presented the first comparative investment database that the SAM movement has created and is online. And he will share the presentation as well as the links after, so that any country can contact us and can understand a bit more how to use the tool. Next, please. Today, the agenda for the webinar, we will have, of course, we have the welcome from Gerda. Introductions. So we have two presenters online. I think actually the colleague from Nepal, Dr. Shiva, had some technical difficulties, so we are trying to reach him by phone. But otherwise, we have Richard Watts from MQSUN, who will share with us a presentation about the experience of technical assistance providers to assist countries in conducting a budget analysis. Able to share experience from some movement countries. I think we have quite a number of colleagues online. I can see, for example, Myanmar, Mozambique, Bangladesh, quite very, I don't do justice to mention everyone in every country, but I'm sure we will have some time during the Q&A to share experiences. Then we will be going through the next steps and recommendations. Perhaps if Richard is online, would you like to start with your presentation, Richard? Or we're trying to reach Dr. Shiva who had problems connecting, Dr. from Nepal.
I'm happy to go ahead.
Thank you. So can someone share the presentation of Richard? Thank you for the screen. Thank you, Richard.
Again, when you need to change slides, just say so and it will be.
And on the webinar, if you have any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat box and we will address them one by one at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
much, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present the work that we've been supporting the federal government of Somalia on. There's a few links in the slides, so yeah, if it's possible to share around the slides to the participants, so they can have access to some of those documents that I've linked to. As I said, this is I think the first slide. Science is providing technical assistance to the federal government of Somalia. Links very much to our work with the Sun Movement Secretariat to focus more at budget analysis at the subnational level. So I just start the presentation by giving a bit of background onto that guidance and the sort of the focus at the subnational level when tracking nutrition investments. To move on to a little bit to talk about the practical application of subnational analysis in the area. And excuse me, as the budget analysis in exercise, we also did some wider exercises to complement the budget analysis data. I think it would be relevant or interest to show how you can complement the budget analysis with other forms of analysis to strengthen the kind of policy and relevance and the conclusions. Great. So next slide is this slide. In the slide is a link to the publication. The Sun Movement Secretariat to provide a bit of an overview about the role of subnational governments in financing nutrition. Put these two figures there. The one on the left in the sort of total government expenditure by subnational governments, and obviously countries that are highly federalized, like or have federalized structures like Pakistan, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Indonesia. A lot of the spending actually at the subnational level, and often transferred in block grants to subnational units from the national level through taxation. But at budget subnationally or nationally, you might miss a huge chunk of nutrition investments just looking at the government budget. And right is just to show that it doesn't really matter if the total spending by subnational governments is looking. I showed the example of Kenya, also sort of 15% on the left. But actually, when the sectors that their subnational governments are responsible for, look at Kenya, over 50% of healthcare spending is at subnational level. So if you're not analysing countries or national units in some countries, you might be missing in looking at who's financing nutrition and some of the challenges. In the links, that puts more detail than these two figures, but I just thought I'd show shows, and I think the other thing to highlight is that fiscal decentralization is a growing trend. So if you look at sort of Kenya in 2013, Nepal now that's just started decentralization processes, Pakistan a few years ago. So increasing trend across governments to decentralize responsibilities. So this is something that will be needed in the future as well in increasing. Next slide. To cut this sort of growing need to look at the subnational level. In 2018, the Sun Movement Secretary asked us to provide some guidance to countries. Produced two different documents. Again, the links are there for people to review and critique. The first one is sort of to understand how you would understand the role of subnational governments in financing nutrition. Where it's to say, who's responsible for what in governments at the national and subnational level. Track nutrition at all investments at the national level, then great. It might not be worth looking at the subnational level. So the guidance document looks at trying to understand the responsibilities and roles of government within countries. Looks of analysis that's possible. Kind of broad looks at two areas. There's a broad focus, so capturing across all subnational governments, or it could be a narrow focus where it looks in more detail at several of them. So looks at kind of spending or allocations versus disbursements, looks at certain programs, less of certain programs. Obviously, in a country like Pakistan, we have several provinces. It might be possible to do a broad analysis, but when you look at it's got over 100 districts, then it's a bit more complicated and time-consuming to do a broad focus. So that second guidance provides some details and some examples of past work. Sort of the focus. There's been a lot of by UNICEF in Pakistan. That was a good example. And this work a few years ago in Nepal and Uganda, where they looked at a couple of different some subnational units. So it provides some kind of concrete examples about what type of analysis you could do at the subnational level if your interest was. Next slide. So on Somalia, so in 2018 they were very much looking at developing a national nutrition plan and looking at it. Beside that, they were interested in understanding kind of budgetary allocations to nutrition. So reached out for technical assistance to support this work. And I think the kind of initial expectation was to focus on the federal government. Actually, Somalia's constitution significant fiscal decentralization. So the federal government doesn't have much responsibility other than sort of foreign affairs outside of Mogadishu, the capital. But it meant that analysis of the federal government budget in Somalia was quite narrow and probably wouldn't lead to much detail on nutrition investments outside the capital city. So actually to look at analysis in Somalia, you really need to look at state governments and what they're funding and prioritising, because of responsibility over tax collection as well. So all of it's at the state level, really. So what we decided to do was kind of use guidance and provide sort of a broad approach. So Jack was saying, following the three-step approach, taking sort of sensitive and investments across federal government and 5 states. And I thought because Somaliland considers itself an independent state rather than in Somalia. Slide. So this figure is one element of some of the data we sort of collected. I think the thing to just on the left is the total government nutrition sensitive expenditure. On the right is just the government, the domestic public finance, so taking out aid on budget. I guess the first thing to highlight is the federal government. I'm blind, so I'm going to start blue with the federal government. So obviously they're an important financer of nutrition in Somalia, but they are by no means the largest, sort of 25% or something like that. So I think this figure highlights why it's really important to track subnational investments in a country like Somalia. And then I think there's aid on budget, but I think when we go to the next slide, not yet, but aid picture will come a bit more clearer. And then obviously the Somaliland and Puntland obviously have finances to nutrition, and then some of the smaller, or not smaller, some of the newer states in Somalia that have just recently been formed and have spent a lot on nutrition at the moment. So see, despite allocations there are significantly less than government have been formed for quite some number of years. Out of this sort of sense, so I just to say that this was possible in Somalia because the World Bank funded public finance systems in all the different states. So what consistency of budget data and budget lines throughout the different states and federal government. So you do similar levels of budget analysis between them helps which is kind of is essential. And I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, so outside of this, so it was rare to actually find specific spending, and I know this is a challenge for lots of undertake nutrition analysis, looking at budget lines. Possible to look at the specific element. With other things we did, looked at kind of planned actual disbursements, led to some interesting findings about lack of utilization rate or poor utilization rates, which is a common theme, I think, across countries, that countries are challenging kind of allocating and then dispersing funds to the sector disaggregation and all those types of things where Zach was outlining in the database you can get for all countries. So this is looked at a wide number of things. Thanks. Next slide. So to this, we conducted aid tracking as well as the budget tracking. So using the Ministry of Planning at the federal level has a really good aid management platform which donors report to, and they're able to disaggregate geographically where aid goes and the details of the different aid projects. Complement the analysis, we added to aid tracking nutrition sensitive expenditure, and then sort of US dollars per capita. And I think on the slide the pie, the aid on budget wasn't very much. When you look at sort of off budget flows as well, aid in Somalia financing is huge. I think as you see in the charts. And then you've got some of the newly formed states, Southwest and Jubaland, which are financed very little compared to aid flows. So this was a sort of complementary analysis to aid understanding about not just Dominican aid on budget flows, but looking at off flows as well, and to understand, I guess, the sources for nutrition in Somalia. So that would be piece. Next slide. And then, as well as that, I think sometimes the data in itself can be informative, but it can just be data on a spreadsheet or figure. So as well as looking at the data, we also looked at some of the policy reasons behind the data. And I think, I guess, the key finding is overall the significant contribution to financing nutrition in Somalia, but also why some of the newly formed states are finding it very difficult to finance nutrition. We did some further analysis and looked at some of the changes, specifically some of the newer states, newly formed states, raising revenue, particularly as they don't have a port. And then for governments like the federal government or Puntland or Somaliland, port taxes play a huge role in their mobilisation efforts. So newly formed states that lack this, very, very challenging to raise revenue, and for focus their expenditure much more on basic functions of government, rather than spending on nutrition or key thematic sectors. We did some additional analysis to show why domestic mobilisation is a key factor in hampering efforts to sort of scale up public investments on nutrition, to kind of, I guess, add value or weight to the data and sort of policy messaging. So I'll go to the conclusions. Outline a bit more detail. So just some feedback. So from the government focal point, the feedback was very positive. Alongside the analysis support we provided, we also provided some sort of guidance on the quality budget data. So some of the that were found in terms of looking at specific spending, some of the issues with the quality of disbursement data, and ways that the government might want to strengthen, kind of dialogue with different states to improve the quality of the data in if they want to conduct the analysis in future. But it's important, I think, technical support is also to provide some of the kind of with the data or ways that it can be improved in future. because I think as people that have conducted it, it's not a perfect exercise, but there are ways that could be. So just providing the technical assistance, it was important for us to provide some capacity building element to that. And obviously, hopefully with the costings of their nutrition plan, then hopefully this can inform improvements in to link the national nutrition plan with budgetary information to track investments over time. So this first exercise has helped in respect. From development partners like DFID was really helpful. They found the sort of disaggregation subnationally very helpful for their own decision making, not able to see look at domestic public investments alongside, provide some insightful by them. So that they said that helped with their own sort of decision making. I think this work has proved quite relevant from a global audience. So it's going to be used as a case study in the upcoming DNR report, as a specific focus on equity. So some of these issues around called disaggregation of funding are relevant to the GNR report, and this work has proved very of interest not just to people in Somalia, but as sort of the replicable model for other countries. And hopefully the guidance listed above would be helpful for other countries interested in this. So on the conclusions, as I said, above sort of in some countries, subnational government investment on nutrition can be significant. So this at this level can help build understanding of financing. And then as I said above, there's guidance there. Actually provide support. Obviously, I would encourage people to read and critique and provide feedback on it. And Somalia is a sort of example of a broader approach with line analysis. As I said, there's other examples where you could do a more focused approach on specific subnational governments. And as before, the study shows that the budget analysis in itself might not be as insightful. So Somalia example here shows that data and complementing it with other pieces of analysis can lead to the stronger kind of anger kind of messaging or analysis for decision makers. And then of data was aided by integrated public management systems. So I think about this kind of budget analysis exercise and others that the management systems are really crucial. Ministries of Finance can play a key role in alignment in improving the quality of data for this exercise. So it's not just a sort of specific focal point issue. It's really key to coordinate with wider ministries to improve the quality of information and decision making. But I think the thing to highlight just for our end is in a lot of the times countries like Guatemala and Peru are heralded as kind of really examples of where you can do this budget analysis and obviously really detailed public financial management systems have really high quality of data. And obviously a country like Somalia, which obviously has had some support from the World Bank, but the budget quality isn't best. But still, you're able to conduct budget analysis and use it to provide some useful findings. So I just end and say that although quality in the budget data might not be the strongest in Somalia, it doesn't prevent analysis taking place. The finding this was of interest to a wide number of stakeholders. So the analysis work is not just it's not just it doesn't just different countries and different processes and different stages can conduct this.
Deborah, are you still there? Can we hear you?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Sorry. Thanks very much.
Okay, as you know, as I said, it's a bit challenging with the technology these days. I have a couple of questions that have come through the chat box, and my colleague Frederick from the SAM Secretariat is collecting them. Frederick, can you unmute your microphone?
Yeah, Deborah, I'm here.
Good, Frederick. Would you mind to read out perhaps the two questions that you have received box for Richard, so that we can try to answer? Thanks.
We had two questions. The first question asking, how did you deal with investment lending from the World Bank, considered as domestic or aid grants or both? If both, what tool to decide the contribution to each did you choose? And the second question asking, were any of the budget data that was gendered disaggregated?
Okay, perfect. On the first question, in terms of funding from the World Bank, so that's good as aid flows. But the domestic spending all through taxation or non-tax revenue. So sort of budget support. The challenge is, I think, in terms of sort of spending and whether it's support, often that can be difficult to decide on where it goes. The analysis looked at the difference is just looking at government's own investments, and the sort of aid analysis looked at the funding landscape, including the World Bank. And obviously the aid management platform is as good as sort of reporting. Yeah, you can say, you know, if the World Bank group is giving sort of budget support, then it can be challenging to decide not just into sector or nutrition focus, but also segregate geographically as well. So obviously data, there's some challenges in understanding the location of it. And the disaggregation. It wasn't Somalia, I think in terms of budgeting, Somalia gender budget. I think there's examples like Bangladesh that provide distribution gender. Something that we kind of looked at or was actively sort of possible in the budgetary data. But that could be something where we with the focal points and I guess depending on their rest and taking this forward with the ministries of finance.
There any more questions for Richard and this presentation? Either through the chat box, or you can also take the floor with microphone if you like.
Rob, may I suggest that we go on to Dr. Shiva because I don't know how long his signal will hold.
Perfect. Okay, so we do have Dr. Shiva. Thank you, Richard. So what I suggest, yes, thank you, Anna. We will take time later for a second round of question and answers. We finally connected Dr. Shiva Adhihari from Nepal. We thank you so much, Dr. Shiva, for being online, and I understand that the connection is very complicated and challenging these days, especially in Nepal. Can you hear Dr. Shiva? Dr. Shiva, can you hear us?
I think you need to unmute your microphone on your mobile phone to speak. Thank you very much.
If we can load up the presentation of Dr. Shiva, that will help. Thank you, Zach. They cannot hear you. I'm sure you can try to speak louder or on microphone.
Looks like he's having trouble. I'm going to try to reconnect him. Just give me 1 second.
Tracking the effect analysis nutrition. Louder.
I think we can hear a voice. I'm not sure if it's Dr. Shiva. Maybe a few. Hello?
Of course.
Shiva, is it you from?
Yeah. This is me. Yeah.
Thank you
How
much.
are you?
Thank you much for your patience and for your time. We know it's challenging to connect by phone from Nepal.
Yeah.
If you think we ready, we can start with the presentation. For questions. Fantastic. Thank you. Yes, please. Zach, perhaps go to the next one.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It is too difficult to connect you. Maybe due to some problem. Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon from Nepal. Hear me? It's okay.
Yes, Shiva, we can hear you. We are just on mute, so we don't have any noise. But yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to make a short presentation on expenditure analysis on nutrition. Especially, I talk on the process and methods of expenditure analysis, and I share the example of Nepal. You know that there are several benefits from the expenditure analysis. It provides data on how to get a better value for money from investment on nutrition. The information on sources of funding and allocation and expenditure inform us the status and prioritization of the intervention. The composition and trend of the expenditure on nutrition provides some idea to evaluate the implementation status of the intervention as well. Yeah, this is so important, and not only the availability of resources are important, also the expenditure on nutrition is also important. Yeah, while implementing the intervention, if we don't have capacity to spend the resources, it means there is no meaning of availability of resources in the nutrition sector. And there are issues. However, expenditure analysis is not straightforward. Slide, please. There are so many challenges, and I am going to talk about the process and methods. First, I want to talk about the data sources. We need to know what are the sources of data. Basically, we pick the data from government offices, development partners, local organizations, and among others. And we need to understand the nutrition intervention. Intervention not only related to health, but also agriculture, education, war, social protection, among others. We know that there are two types of specific intervention. Nutrition is sensitive and nutrition is specific. For their purpose, we are waited for this. There are so many factors and weightage. We'll talk about this, and after collecting the data, we need to data because we collected different from different sources. That's why for the tabulation, we can go to the previous slide. Tabulation and standardization and aggregation. There are different methods for the data management. Then, when we determine the way, we need to identify the intention as a data sources, and then sometimes we need to understand the result trend. If you don't know result trend, it will be difficult to give the weightage. We give the weightage in percentage. Any percentage goes to the nutrition-specific intervention and or nutrition-sensitive intervention. At the same time, there are some other intervention as well. We need to categorize them, or we need to give a percentage weightage for them. Next. Hello. Sometimes we collect the data from aggregated data because we need to disaggregate data for this purpose. Because we collect the aggregated data. For example, if we collect the data from local level, the total number of data or total budget or total expenditure from them. But sometimes we need to disaggregated them to the nutrition specific or nutrition intervention and other intervention as well. At the same time, collecting the data, we need to standardization of the data, because there may be a method to analyze the data. For example, we can use the mean standard deviation of the expenditure. At the same time, we need to check the consistency of data, because sometimes there are so many problems in handling the data. Maybe uniformity we need to check. Maybe pattern we need to check. There are some other intervention. We need to check. If there is no intervention, maybe sometimes expenditure can change. That's why we need to change, or we need to check all the and to make consistency. And major problem in double counting while we conducting the analysis. Counting means maybe we can collect from the different sources. National government and maybe the provincial government, maybe the local government. At the same time, we can collect the data from government as well as the development partners. In case maybe the double counting problem. That's why we need to have this double counting problem. Next, please. Hello. We need to follow the all process step by step. That's why there are 9 steps to make the data or to make the analysis more consistency. First, we need to identify the intervention and activities. All activities we should cover. We should ensure that there should not be overlapping. At the same time, we know about the process and approaches. What are the approaches we are going to use, and we need to collect the data from different sources, and then collected data we need to triangulate. Then triangulation means we collect the data from different sources, but we need to cross verification, or we need to take either where there may be the double counting, there may be the inconsistency, there may be the data may, or maybe some of the data may left. We need to check, and then we need to validate the expenditure analysis with to sit with the policymakers, and then we revise analysis suggested by policymaker and stakeholders, then we can finalize the expenditure analysis dissemination. These are the 9 steps we need to follow all the process when we analyze the expenditure.
Slide next.
We follow the all process and methods, but sometimes we face the problem if we don't have the tools or user-friendly tools, then it will be difficult for us. Therefore, we need the Excel-based and user-friendly tools to analyze the procedure or to analyze the data. Yet our costs to verify. I know the all reported data, and it will help us to externalization and comparison. It will help us to analyze the data at the same trend and same path. That's why we need the tools. We develop the Excel-based tools for Nepal. I want to share with you about the tools, and I will explain about this. Next slide.
Slide.
Hello. Yeah, based on these, there are overview of Excel-based tools. You can see here in the data, first part of this slide is we can see the Excel sheet, this is the entry sheet, and if we click the data entry, and we'll get the data entry format in the nutrition like that, and we after enter the all data, we'll get the diagram and trend line automatically. We develop that way, and not only for that, we develop the how to weightage for this when we analyze the expenditure data. We develop that way. Another slide.
Change.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, we developed the tools, and we'll get these type of data in the trend line as well the personal. We can either by using these tools. There are type of tools. Maybe we can link if we have data in the output data, we can link with the output data in the expenditure data in these tools. But we have the output data year by year. That we developed in the Excel-based expenditure data only. Yeah. Let's go to another slide.
Slide change.
Yeah, I'll share the expenditure tools. I'll discuss later.
Dr. Shiva, I'm going to try to reconnect. Yeah.
Yeah, we're sorry to hear that it's no longer connected, but we understand that the connection in Nepal is complicated. So I suggest about the time we are connecting Dr. Shiva, and Johanna, you let us know when he's online again. Richard, are you still there? Oh, so Freddie, would you like maybe to read one question that Richard has received on his presentation while waiting for Dr. Shiva to connect again? Thank you.
A question from Myanmar asking, Somali government and stakeholders reacted to these findings from this budget analysis, and what have you observed?
I haven't had any specific feedback apart from the focal point and the kind of the people supporting the focal point. But I think in terms of the budget analysis, I think it's been an important kind of to look at kind of investments in nutrition in the country. I think in obviously the is looking at kind of their own national nutrition plan and costing it. So the budget lines, some of the spending can help inform, I guess, track investments and costing it effectively. Definitely, I think it highlights to the federal government that the national nutrition plan, it be a plan in itself. That's held in the federal government. It has to be something that's shared or acknowledged within state governments as well, followed. So a kind of budget analysis can highlight the importance of state governments in financing nutrition. For any kind of success, look at a plan, a coordinating role, then it's shown that states need to be involved. And that's a process that going in terms of a greater coordination or greater involvement of state governments in planning in the country overall, and hope helps within the nutrition sector. The analysis on the revenue is something that's well known in terms of the federal governments, and something that they're actively looking to improve, whether that's looking at improving the revenue either by sort of fish rights at the federal government and oil rights, and then to increase the revenue base in the country, critical for a fiscal space within state governments. So again, work highlights a broad issue, and I know it's not specifically focused on nutrition, but it's relevant. So I'd say those are some of the kind of key findings. Maybe it's been important for the GR as well to look at kind of equity of funding.
Richard, let's see if we have Dr. back online. Johan, do you know if he's connected?
I've managed to connect him. Dr. Shiva, can you hear us okay?
Do you hear us? Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for getting back online. We're happy to have you again. Would you conclude your presentation? Okay, the conclusion. Please.
Okay, can we go to the Excel sheet?
One moment, please. The Excel, and now it should be available to everyone. You can begin.
I saw the Excel sheet.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Develop this Excel sheet. Yeah, this is a very user friendly, and anyone can enter the data in this case. Yeah. See, we have 3 levels of government: the federal government, provincial government, and local level. And now I am starting from the federal level government here. And in level government, there are health sector code. We have the budget code. We have the sector intervention, sources of funding, and sensitive and specific intervention, and contribution of nutrition budget, and total allocation, total expenditure, and total nutrition allocation and nutrition expenditure. These are your column I am going to discuss, and then we can see the data sources here, and what are the data sources from here. And I did not see in the in this screen. Here is the data entry for here. You can see this and send this. I don't know.
You explain exactly what you want me to do. I will mirror everything you are asking. We are on the sub-tab Federal right now in the Excel.
Federal, yeah, Federal. And let's go to the in the right east corner and data entry. Then we will click the data entry here and get the who can enter the data entry format. If here and they get click this data entry.
Would me to click it for everyone, yes?
Yeah.
To explain, as I am screening, I'm unable to click on it at this point.
Okay. Data entry click. There are so many options here. Yeah. Just data entry. Please click data entry, and then we can see all, and not necessarily go to the each level of government. It may be sent for this. Yes.
Would you like me to click on the process?
Data entry. Yeah, this. Yeah, click this.
It not work. If I'm not screening, it would work. But at this point, it
Okay. Sorry.
know that if we click this, it will.
Would you like me to give him presenter rights and so that he can share his screen?
We do that, yes.
All right.
I will share it then.
Thank you. Dr. I'm going to give you presenter rights. Please accept, and then we will see your screen. Is that okay for you?
Okay, no problem. Yeah. And after clicking this, yeah. See the data entry format. Yeah.
Dr. We're going to need you to share your screen with us. You can see the icons at the bottom of your WebEx window, the icon that will allow you to share your screen. If you can please click that, then we can see what you are doing on your screen.
How can this?
Everyone, we just
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. If we click the data entry, there is a form in the with a serial number here in the sector, and since there may be different sector. For example, education sector, agriculture sector, livestock, and health, wash, among others. And then we can get the budget code. We can write the budget code here. Or maybe the multi-sectoral intervention and other intervention we can write here. And what are the funding sources? We can click and we can right there. And similarly, specific and sensitive intervention we can write there. And then percentage of nutrition budget we can write, and allocation of budget, total expenditure we can do.
Dr. Shiva, sorry to interrupt. We still cannot see your screen. Please go back to the WebEx window, and at the bottom you will see about 7 or 8 circular icons. You have the 5th or the 6th of those icons will allow you to share your screen. If you could click those and share with us, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Yeah. That's something, but we don't see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, data entry form. Yeah, data form. Yeah, first serial number, we can write 1 or 3 or like that, serial number. Then we can, if we click here, we can see the fiscal year. Yeah, fiscal. Yeah, we can enter the fiscal year maybe 14, 15 here. We can click. And sector, different sector, education sector, and livestock, maybe health, wash, and women and children. This is based on Nepal in the sectors, and then in the budget code we mentioned. Yeah, budget code we can enter here, and then there are multi-sector intervention. There may be other intervention as well. We can write here. And funding sources, what are the funding sources here? And we know UNICEF, WHO, and other specified, maybe we can add this or other sources as well. There may be the since I'm in specific intervention, we can click one. Then the percentage of nutrition and the total budget, and then and the sources, what are the data sources for this, and marks is anything. And they can click the add data, and we will get the data here. Yeah, and entry will data entry here, and then you can only see the data entry window right now. So if you can share the Excel sheet window using the same process as before. Yeah. See your data entry now, right now. Yeah. Excel sheet. Yeah. No, we cannot see the Excel sheet. Okay, sorry. So please go back to the same share button on your WebEx window and Excel sheet instead of data entry sheet, or entire screen so that we can see everything. Can you see? Yes, sir.
Just a bit of time, and we're planning to finish in 15 minutes because we have also another webinar. Can I suggest that for the colleagues online who are interested to have a more detailed look at this tool, can you share your contact details and they can get in touch with you?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
So what we will do after this webinar, we'll share all the presentations with everyone, and we will also share your contact details. So anyone who would like to have more information on how you have built this tool and this Excel file and everything, then they can get in contact directly with you, and they can have a more detailed conversation.
Okay.
So we'll do that. We'll share the presentation. We will share your contact details, and then if you are able to share the tool, I think many people are interested in understanding a bit more.
Okay.
So we count on you to share that. Fantastic. So just now, we still had a few questions in the chat box that we have not yet answered. Freddie, you can read them out, please.
I'd like to start with a question for Dr. Shiva. Does the government bodies consider nutrition sensitive information is important for this analysis?
Hello?
you understand the question?
Yeah, please tell me again.
Have a strategy of what is considered nutrition intervention.
What strategy of, because in Nepal, if you ask the Nepal questions, we developed the multi-sector nutrition strategy, and there are 8 to 9 multi-sectors with a strategy, and based on that we allocated the resources. We allocated the resources, but we don't ensure that expenditure maybe happen or not. That's why we need to analyze the expenditure. Yeah, this is the government view. Yeah, I don't know. I'm researcher but government maybe should give some priority to the intervention, nutrition intervention, I think so.
Thank you, Freddy. Do we have more questions?
Okay.
Another one. What are the best approaches or suggestions for subnational government states who are able to even spend the available budget? Will the budget analysis help them to reallocate better in the next cycle?
Yeah, because after having the expenditure analysis, the result we can suggest them. Yeah, because we cannot spend in this sector or in this intervention. Maybe we can change what are the problems. We can discuss with them with having our result, and then we can suggest them. We need to change our strategy. We need to spend more if we have allocated budget. You can anyway. We need to send them to the basic process. What are the methods we can improve in this sector? And we need to sit with them with having the result. And push them to change their strategy.
Just up on I think there's sort of, I guess, 2 different approaches. Maybe Dr. Shiva and I were sort of more looking at the sort of broad approach, looking at across the country. But there might be more informative for specific subnational governments to do their own sort of analysis that could be more detailed. An example in Pakistan for UNICEF that looked not just the nutrition, but looked at all sorts of aspects. So the coherence to the plan, spending, but also looking at not just disbursements, but actually the performance of projects and programs. A whole range of things across the common results framework. Depending on the government and what the needs are, there's different approaches. Hopefully the guys can link to can help inform types of analysis that are possible.
Maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and the rest we can also answer in writing after the webinar. Do you have any other question from the chat box?
Yes, they keep coming. Another one. The curves for expenditures in nutrition outcomes are on the right direction. Do improvements in nutritional outcomes to increase in the expenditures for nutrition? And is there more analysis done to support the claim, if any? How do local governments differ in expenditure and their outcomes?
We need expenditure, or we need intervention. We are implementing intervention because to get the outcome. Yeah. Anyway, outcome is most important. There, you need to analyze the expenditure as well as the outcome of the nutrition. If we can link them, if it's positive or more resource, if we have more resource, maybe we can get the more outcome. Some not necessary to more resources produce more outcome. That's why I need to analyze this. Maybe if we have data, We can do the cost effectiveness analysis as well. The resources we need to get that level of outcome, type of analysis we need for the intervention, for the making. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva. Any more question? Bulbul from Bangladesh. I think you'd like to make a question. The last one before we close, and the rest we can answer in writing. So, can you hear us?
But I don't think his microphone.
Okay, he cannot. Bulbul, we invite you to write the question in the chat box because we cannot hear you, unfortunately. So in the chat box, then we will be able to share it with you.
Hi, Deborah.
Yes, we can hear you. Please.
I'm Dr. Sadi from UNICEF Nutrition Bangladesh. We see that in the Excel sheet there are different layers of funding sources like central government, federal government, provincial, and the local government. Like Bangladesh is a centralized country, these two need to be changed or altered. Or
do you follow any, specific definitions for including the nutrition sensitive due data collection? Thank you.
Sorry, I think we have two questions at the same time. Perhaps we can let the first person speak from UNICEF Bangladesh.
Yeah. So I'd like to know the tool we have seen. There are different layers of government, that's central, provincial, and local government. But Bangladesh is a centralized country, all the budget allocations and centralized level. So this tool will be developed another version. Which is this tool? Is it, am I right or wrong?
You can change these tools, no problem. It's easy. Anyway, whether this is federal country or centralized country, we need to collect the data from the spending unit. That's why you have in the different level of spending, maybe local level spending, maybe the regional level spending, maybe the central level spending. The spending is most important. That's why we can change the tools, no problem. But spending unit we need to find out. Yeah.
Darshan? And there was a colleague who tried to speak.
Hello?
Yes.
You hear me? Yeah. This is Dr. Bulbul from Bangladesh. I want to make two questions. One is for Shiva and another one is for Richard. For Shiva, I have a question that how many agencies you have included during your data collection, and do you feel any challenges during the data collections in Nepal? Another one is for Richard. I have seen from your presentation that you only mention about nutrition sensitive data. Did you separate it both specifics or sensitive, or just mention it in nutrition sensitive agenda? And how you define the nutrition sensitive? Do you have any specific definition here? Thank you.
First, yeah.
Dr. Shiva, you can start.
I have collected data from different sources. For example, basically, we collect the data from national government level. That's called the Red Book. We collect that. And similarly, we collected data from provincial government as well. At the same time, we collected data from the local level government. Because they all have the spending unit, we capture all spending unit of the nutrition. Yes, I collected data. Definitely, there are so many problems. For example, maybe sometimes the allocation is easy. we can see the allocation for nutrition, but we cannot see sometimes in the expenditure on nutrition. And this type of problem we can get, and sometimes for the non-government organization or some other development partners don't have details data. And at that time, we face the problem. That's why I talk about my presentation about the externalization and triangulation and double counting. We have to use to check data and to ensure that they are the correct. We need to validate all data. That's why I am talking about this.
And my example, so the work is very much in government budget data, and as I said, although there's been improvements in the data across the different states and federal government, it wasn't possible to look at specific budget lines where there might have been nutrition. So a lot of the only data that was possible was to look at the sensitive component. And as I said, alongside the analysis for the government, we provided advice on how you could improve that in future, either by improving quality of budgetary data or through great discussions with line ministries in terms of the allocations. I think in terms of Somalia, it was much seen as a first step in terms of not only under financing for nutrition, but also to link to the costings and nutrition plan. And in terms of the segregation, I know this is a common thing that people across countries find challenging is in terms of allocate specific and sensitive. So I think the work is very much guided by the guidance notes from S. That's available on their website as a sort of a first step, and then after the initial phase of step one of sort of categorizing some of the budget lines in coordination with the focal point in government to actually outline whether they are sensitive or specific. So I think at first step the guidance note is helpful, and more coordination with government to actually go from which one, what the categorization is.
Do you still have time?
With maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, please. Thank you.
From Bangladesh, one specific question to the boards. When we discuss about the equity issue, this we can do this financial tracking at central level and geographical level, but is there anything that the finance for the popular group, like the most disadvantaged group, the poorest group, because there is any attempt made so far to track this for the poorest and most needy population group?
Would you like to answer that?
Yeah, very quickly. I think obviously Bangladesh has their own sort of poverty budget initiative by the Ministry of Finance. Within your own country, that's a sort of model where you might be able to sort of mark poverty specifically. I think in looking at specific, I think that the change is obviously guided by spending agents are, and I think looking at funding on specific groups, I think the type of analysis would have to shift rather than looking at budgetary allocations, maybe it's on specific, looking at a specific project, be a sort of a cash transfer, food voucher system, and looking at that specific and analysing, that project and where the funding is going and how decided in terms of allocating to specific groups. So I think that would focus, the analysis would change there, where you don't just focus on budget overall, but you look at a specific program and you look at the whole chain from sort of how is planning, how is it planned, how is it implemented, and what are the results, and how does the financing flow within that specific project set of projects. Advice for looking at how funding is targeted at specific groups.
Unfortunately, we have to finish because we are a bit over time. What I'd like to share now is just some links and resources that we will share after the webinar. So I said we are going to share the recording of the webinar for those colleagues who have not been able to attend. We're also going to share all the presentations that were presented here. The contact of Dr. Shiva in Nepal, so you can share the tool, guide you, anyone who has more questions, a more detailed conversation about the tool. And here are just some links and resources to our SUN website. Many countries have been conducted to do a budget analysis. Do feel free to reach out to us. My colleague Zach is responsible for leading the budget analysis at the SUN Secretariat, and we have a number of partners that are also supporting. So don't hesitate to contact us if you would like to do a budget analysis in your country. We have a link to the first ever comparative nutrition investment database. We could only give you a short presentation today, but we would be very happy to guide you through a more presentation. And finally, we have more links on innovative financing mechanisms for nutrition. We are also, if there is any question that we have not been able to answer today, please be assured that we are going to answer in writing after the webinar. So do feel free to keep sending your questions to us. To thank everyone, and for those of you who might be interested, in half an hour from now, we will have another webinar on the same topic, but with different presentations, particularly one from the colleagues in Yemen. So don't hesitate also to connect and to attend the other presentation if you are interested. Otherwise, stay safe, everyone, and wish you all the best to you, your family, colleagues, and communities. Thank you very much from SUN Secretariat.